Did you got any nose notes?
I just went ahead and already drank it. Sorry.
That's okay. Hello and welcome to My Tiny Bottles, the project where I'm exploring my grandmother's legacy of miniature liquor bottles, one tiny bottle at a time. I'm your host, Tammy Coxon, and I am here in wonderful New Orleans with Jeff Beachbum Berry. Jeff, would you like to introduce yourself to the people?
I think you just did. I'm Jeff Beachbum Berry. I am the saloon keeper at Latitude 29, right around the corner in the French Quarter. Written a few books about tropical drinks.
I think he understates a little bit his importance in particular tiki history, right? Like, we know what some of these classic tiki drinks were made from because Jeff did the work to go talk to all the bartenders and find that out.
Well, I don't like to toot my own conch shell, but yeah, that is true. There would not be a zombie or Three Dots in a Dash or Navy Grog or any of these drinks in any of these tiki bars. Were it not for my books and the, I hesitate to say labor, but the time I put into
Right. No, it's fantastic. When I started, my grandmother had this collection, and I asked my dad what happened to Grandma's minis, and he didn't answer. And then like 6-8 months later, he shows up on my porch with this little box. And I start looking through the box, and he's like, oh, I have 2 more bins in the car. And that's when I decided that I didn't want to just like catalog them for myself. I wanted to have this little Christmas experience, right, on camera where I'm like, oh my God, what's this one? And as I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, and then I can like collect up like 6 rums and I can go to New Orleans and I can taste them with Jeff Beachbum Berry. Like literally, you were one of the first people I thought of when I conceived of what this project would look like. And then all I got for a really long time were not very interesting rums. I got Bacardi O. I got Cyclone, which is a rum tequila hybrid. I got a couple like West Indies rums, a couple Antiguan rums. Were okay, interesting, but I was like, none of these are worth Jeff Beachbum Berry.
if it's got alcohol in it and it's in a bottle, it's worthy.
All right, fair enough. But in my reveal video where I opened bottle number 100, I discovered bottle number 100, I was tickled pink to get not 1 but 2 rums. So bottle number 99 was Lamani, and bottle number 100 was Mount Gay Sugarcane Brandy. And in the video, I'm so excited about the fact that I got a rum that I don't even notice that it says Sugarcane Brandy. So why?
Well, I think that was just marketing. Mount Gay historically has never done a sugarcane rum, a rum distilled from fresh pressed cane juice. They do a combination of pot and column still, mostly column. And I believe that that's what this is, only it's aged more. They used to call aged premium rums, liqueur rums.
Okay.
In the Caribbean. Like Ray and Nephew would say, this is a liqueur rum aged 20 tropical years or whatever. And I think that's the same tack that Mount Gay took by calling this a brandy, a sugarcane brandy, trying to elevate the category. Because you have to remember that rum didn't really have the kind of cachet that cognac or gin or scotch had back then. It was an uphill battle for them for legitimacy. So I think that might be one of the reasons for this. Now, there is the off chance that this actually is something made from what Matt Pietrek reminded me of, what they called sugarcane honey, which is basically not fresh pressed cane juice. It's not like an agriculture like that, but it is not quite the same molasses. I don't know if they would have bothered with that.
Yeah.
There's no indication on either of these bottles, either way.
When I was researching it, I found like an old archive page of Mount Gay, and they just said that it was not sugarcane. It was just it had the organoleptic characteristics of a brandy.
I don't know what that means, but okay. Ed Hamilton, who's the guru, the sage of all these things, wrote this book in the 90s, I believe. And he does have the label right here.
Oh, beautiful.
And he does say that it's a blend of rums up to 5 years old. And again, he says not available in very many places, but worth looking for. So it's like, even then, it was sort of like a limited release, probably.
And I think by this name, because they couldn't call it brandy outside of Barbados for a while, right? Once we started caring about
Yeah.
typical, all the definitions of spirits, then they switched to calling it sugarcane rum in some markets. And I think it's been discontinued since 2012.
You'd be hard pressed to find it. I mean, I found this bottle in my friend Steve Remsburg's garage. Unfortunately, it was empty when he gave it to me. But I just loved the label so much that I kept it. And then it's like kismet that you call me up later and say, hey, I've got this sugarcane brandy.
Well, that's right.
What a coincidence, right?
So when I sent the list over of the things I had possibly available to taste, you were like, I would like to taste the sugarcane brandy, please.
Yeah.
And why is that? One, because you have this, but two,
I actually had some. I bought a bottle in a Glendale, California liquor store when I lived in Los Angeles in the 90s. In the 90s.
Okay.
And I bought it because sugarcane brandy, what's up with this?
Yep.
I was trying to learn about rum, and the only way you could really do that back then before the internet was just to buy it and taste it, and then figure out what makes this incredibly vast flavor spectrum tick. So that was 30 odd years ago. I have no memory whatsoever about how it tasted. So I'm really excited to try it now.
It's got a little evaporation on this bottle, so
yeah,
be not quite the same.
Now, according to Ed's book, this would have been 86 proof, whereas the current Mount Gay is 80 proof.
Yeah.
Because you have a comparison bottle over there of the Eclipse. That would have been 2-year aged. The Eclipse was 2-year aged. This would have been 5, and then the extra old would have been 10. So this is sort of in the intermediate range there, like a 5-year aged. So
little evaporation, but still plenty of alcohol there.
Oh yeah, I'm getting a little nose burn. Definitely some pot still in there. I mean, it's like
and that I think was what I was reading is that it's still a blend of pot and column, but a higher proportion of pot relative to Eclipse, because these two coexisted for
what's the color?
For a long time.
Color's not that different, actually.
No, but that the sugarcane brandy would have had more pot still relative to column.
And it was aged longer too.
Right, that too.
So that could also account for the richness.
Would Eclipse always have been a 2-year?
Well, as far back as the 90s, it lasted. Before Ed, what's before Christ? And there's before Hamilton, BH, and I was like.
So I think this bottle is probably from the 1980s, is what I was able to determine just based on the details of the label.
Well, there's no barcode.
But I don't know.
And there's no barcode on this one either.
Right. So this, you got this in the 90s, but it probably was there for a while.
Oh, this one I got from Steve like a couple of years ago.
Okay.
The empty one.
Oh, the one you drank was in the 90s. Yeah. We don't know when this one's from. This one looks even.
This is older.
Older than mine.
This is much older. I mean, because if you look at the back, AY Ward, this is the kind of stuff that Matt would probably be able to time stamp, but this is very much older than the 80s, I would say.
Yeah, and it does say 50 mils on it, so that does have some metric measures, so that would imply kind of post-1979 potentially. So 80s, I'm going to say. Did you got any notes?
I just went ahead and already drank it, sorry.
That's okay.
Well, just the usual toffee, caramel, aged rum notes.
Wow.
Little vanilla tobacco, the usual, but it's a very lovely bouquet. And having tasted it already and jumped the gun, I would say that it follows through on the palate.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, organoleptic characteristics of a brandy, I don't know, but it really is like.
I'm in organoleptic shock now.
That's right. But it is really rich and full-bodied.
Yeah, it is.
More
so than I think we're going to find, much more so than the contemporary version of similar age range, similar.
Yeah, I think of the Eclipse as just being a light, kind of easy drinking. But this has a lot more going on. So you can see why they could have both of those products, because they really would hit very different markets.
This feels like it has a lot more esters and congeners and all the good things that are bad for you that make rum taste good, which would have came out for the wood. Definitely not filtered or anything like that.
Yeah, that's really nice.
This is what they would have called, probably before World War II, a liqueur rum. To be drunk as you would a cognac, or this is not really something to mix into Coke.
That's what I was wondering, if that liqueur concept was the idea of you would sit and drink a liqueur as opposed to you'd mix with a rum, right?
Yeah. We should have, the marketing people would have loved for us to have a snifter.
I liked these ones because they are kind of round.
They are. No, they're really good for nosing too.
All right. Well, let's see how it compares to our modern day. And, you know, as we were saying, like this is kind of intended to be lighter right from the get-go. And things have certainly changed a lot in the last 40 years.
I hadn't noticed.
Well, in the rum world. So the thing I'm learning from rum people today is nobody spends much time on the nose. You and Matt both were like straight to the palate.
Well, we're just old rummies, old alcoholics, and it's like, don't waste time with such niceties.
Well, I do think it's interesting because, I mean, I would not say that this nose is hugely different, like from my first whiff here. Now, when I go back, I get kind of more molassesy notes, but they've all tasted much more expressive on the palate than I noticed on the nose. Were there other spirits that I get a lot more on the nose, right?
I mean, yeah, not to be contrarian, but I don't get almost anything from this. I just get a little bit of a honey, like a lemon honey, whereas this was just like a really powerful mix of aromas, you know.
Right, but it didn't like, it's hitting my nose now with aroma, but when I first poured it, it just didn't get a ton, right? It kind of creeps up on me, I think.
Well, it's oxidizing too, so it's going to open up.
Yeah. Yeah, just like even the Eclipse is now opening up a little bit more.
I hope so. Let's see.
Body is completely different. It's got...
Well, this is to be mixed. This is definitely
sure.
a mixing room. I mean, again, I'm just getting sort of like a honey lemon taste off of it. Entirely different from the sort of like butterscotchy caramel burnt brown butter taste of this one, which is much more complex, as befits what you would call a brandy, I guess.
Right. Yeah. I do kind of get this like similar note in the mid palate, which is maybe just the Barbados thing. But
let me try that again.
But I just feel like there's a, you know, the Eclipse is really light. The sugarcane brandy is really full bodied, but there is a through line. Maybe I'm just inventing it.
No. I mean, it comes from the same distillery,
right?
The same, probably the same stills that we're using.
Probably still today. Yeah, they built a new still. Trying to remember, I've just researched a whole bunch of bottles, so I can't remember. No, actually, this was not the one that built a new still in 1984. So never mind.
And this might also not be the work of their extremely talented new head distiller blender, Trudy Ann Baker, who's doing really wonderful things with some of their more aged expressions.
That's exciting.
Yeah. And I don't know if she's tackled Eclipse yet, but I'm sure when she does get around to it, we're going to have a very different vibe to that.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
It's an exciting time to be in the rum world.
Yes, absolutely. Because for so many years, the big companies chased the vodka market and they stripped their rum of everything that makes rum tasty.
Yeah.
You know, in the name of purity and filtration and all that, just to try to cash in on that lighter, cleaner taste that people liked in the 70s and 80s. And now they're coming back to realizing, well, if we really want to differentiate ourselves from the pack, we have to go back to what we were.
Right.
Let's do rum again.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Right.
And we're finding that. Yeah, we're finding that with a lot of producers now.
I was in Hawaii and we were visiting a bar and they had a really cool rum menu that was like, if you like whiskey, try these rums. If you like brandy, try these rums. Yeah. Right. What are the gateway rums to people who are maybe used to these other categories? Because
I would say that if you can get a hold of some of this sugarcane brandy rum, it's a good gateway for cognac drinkers.
Alas, I don't think there's much sugarcane brandy out there. But if you do find a bottle that looks like this, I think we can both say you should.
Well, next time Grandpa and Grandma ask you to help clean the attic or the basement, do it. I find some.
I have, now that people know I have this project, my friends who are cleaning out their parents' basements quite often are gifting me dusty bottles. And it's glorious, the things that people have hidden away.
You might be able to do this show for the next 20 years. You don't sound too enthusiastic about that.
It's a lot of work. I think I decided right at the beginning I was going to do Grandma's bottles because people already try to like, you know, oh, do you want my Grandma's collections of minis? Right. And I'm like, nope, this is me and my Grandma's bonding moment.
I don't need your Grandma's Smirnoff and Hypnotique.
Well, thank you for tasting this with me. Did it bring back any memories?
Actually, it did. But what you have to remember is that back then, a lot of rums tasted like this.
Mm.
I mean,
And we're talking 90s.
yeah. I mean, back then, even Appleton, which has been smoothing itself out over the last few decades, had a much more powerful high ester flavor bomb kind of taste. So I don't know that I would have, this would have shined out that much more than some of the other really interesting things I was finding.
If it wasn't for the name.
Yeah.
Right. The name caught your attention.
But this is a very, very good, very, very good pour. I mean, I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah. Lots of molasses and caramel, and it's just rich and
A lot going on.
yeah. Could sit with this one all day. I only have that much left. A little bit more. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure.
Where can people find you?
Right around the corner, Latitude 29, or beachbumberry.com has a bunch of different portals, which will direct you to where the books are, where the syrups that we do are, where the rums that I'm doing with Ed are, and all the other good stuff, barware, et cetera, et cetera.
And I had some lovely drinks at Latitude 29 yesterday, so I can highly recommend that if you come to New Orleans, make it one of your stops. And speaking of stopping places, stop just below this video if you are watching on YouTube and hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share, comment. You can also comment at mytinybottles.com, where you'll find out more about this bottle and all the bottles. And of course, you can find me on social media. I'm at mytinybottles on Instagram and Facebook, and at TammyLC on Blue Sky. Cheers.
Cheers.
Pinky's out for this one.